Welcome out to the show tonight, guys. This is Studio 321. This is your podcast host, Eddie B, coming at you from the 321. So how much farmland does China own in the United States? The reason I bring that up is because, the whole battle that's going on right now with all the tariffs and the trade war between us and China. Looks like the U.S. is trying to withdraw, from a lot of these weird deals that we've had with China over the years. So that, I'm always talking to people online, and that's something that keeps coming up a lot. People keep talking about, China owns this much land in the United States and that much and this. So I wanted to research it and get some numbers, and I got some pretty cool facts. So stick with me. Got to check this out. I'm gonna blow your mind with some facts. In the meantime, please hit the subscribe and like button. Hit the notifications button. Subscribe to my channel. It's free, but it really helps spread the word. Like-minded people, man, we got to stick together and we got to spread the word that way, and this is how you do it. So, hit the subscribe button and hit me up in the comments section. Let me know what you think. So anyways, let's get to it. So I've got a list of stuff here. I'm going to read some stuff. I wanted to write it down and get it perfect, so I got to read off of this list. So Chinese entities and individuals own 277,336 acres of farmland in the United States. Okay. Now, what they mean by entities and individuals, there's a lot of Chinese owned companies, some agricultural companies, some food processing companies, stuff like that own farmland in the United States because it's related to their business. But there is also a lot of individuals who own, land as separate individuals. Okay, so 277,336. Now, to put that into context, the largest foreign country to own land in the United States, farmland, is Canada, okay? Canada owns 12,845,000 acres of U.S. farmland. But I don't really look at that the same way because, for one, Canada's our neighbor. It's pretty much like the U.S. And for two, they're not an adversary. They're not a hostile adversary anyways. I bet you if Russia owned a bunch of land over here, everybody'd be pissed off about that. So I don't know why they let the Chinese slide on all that. But we'll get into some of that later. So, the way that it works in the U.S., there is no federal law that deters foreign countries or entities from buying land in the United States, which I find that odd. It's very, you got to be a little bit protectionist. You can't just let other countries buy up all your land. But we don't have any federal law that makes that illegal. So what it comes down to is each individual state law. Okay, so some states have certain laws on the books, and some have certain things that you have to follow, and you can't be this or you can't be a certain type of business or whatever. But it all comes down to the individual states in the U.S., which again, I don't agree with that. But that's I'm kind of a territorial guy. Like, I don't see why other countries should be able to own any of our land. But that's just me. So I was trying to figure out, how these laws got enacted to be this way. And apparently they're very old. It's been this way a long time. And it bothers me. Now, which states do the Chinese own the most land in? And this one kind of shocked me because this is all southern states. And usually we're not with all that weird sharing everything with everybody else stuff. But anyways, Texas, North Carolina, Virginia, and Missouri are the top 4 states that the Chinese own land in. And, this one pisses me off right here because I'm in Florida. They own 13,000 acres in Florida, which is not much on the grand scheme, but that pisses me off because this is my home state, and I don't think they should own any land in this state or this country for that fact, but especially not in my home state. So, look, this is the way I see it. Okay, if you're going to be our friend around the world, I don't even know if you want to call it friend. If you just want to be a trading partner, let's say we're not friends, we're just trading partners. Okay, you have to you have to respect what we want as well. Now, if you watch what's going on with the Chinese right now, they're throwing a huge tantrum. They're acting like we're doing them wrong. I follow a site called the China Observer, which is like a internet site and it just tells a lot about China trade and all this stuff. Kind of nerd stuff you definitely don't want to sit and watch for hours. I just do it because I'm weird. But anyways, so they're over there. China's hurting right now, right? But they say they're not going to budge, and they're starting to spew a lot of the nationalist stuff, like, oh, America's bad, and telling all the workers, hang in there because we're going to fight against America on this, and it's starting to look kind of like, I don't know, man. I don't want to say pre-war type of behavior, but that's the only way I would know how to describe it, right? They're starting to try to build up all like pointing the fingers at America, like, oh, it's their fault that you have no job, and it's their fault you can't feed your family. Because let me tell you, that's what's actually going to end up happening the longer this goes on. Okay, because China's not going to look at their own citizens and say, hey, it's our fault that because we won't make some fair trade with the United States. It's not our fault that you can't feed yourself. They're going to point the finger at us and say that it's the United States' fault because they want the population mad at us, not mad at their own leaders. And look, that's the game everywhere in every country all the time. When the citizenship gets angry at the leadership's concoct up some bad enemy. Usually it's another country and points the finger at them and says, hey, they're the problem, go get them. And then that's how wars start, right? So, and look, and I always say that I'm a history buff. If you go back to World War II, that's exactly, one of the main reasons that Japan got involved and attacked Pearl Harbor in World War II was because we had put a trade embargo on their oil, okay? And at the time, Japan was doing exactly what China is trying to do right now. They were in major expansionist mode. They were trying to take over territories. They're a small country, but they're very powerful, a very strong economy. And they were in expansionist mode, and they were trying to basically spread influence around the world. And the U.S. was like, whoa, 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 not so fast. This was pre-World War II, and we put some trade embargoes on their oil and basically crippled their economy and kind of messed up their plans, all their expansionist plans, and they attacked. Okay, so I kind of see a little bit of that going on right now. I do. I feel like the longer this goes on, the more China is going to try to blame us and make us be the bad guys. But think about this. That just shows you how crooked this trade situation has been with them all this time. Everybody knows that they've been screwing us. They know it. We know it. For the last 30 years, they've been screwing us. All these other countries have come to the table now. They want to make deals, except for China. You know why? Because China knows that without this crooked trade deals, the one-sided situation that we've had for so long, they cannot continue to grow the way they've grown. Now think about that. In the beginning, when we let China into the World Trade Organization, okay, we did that on purpose to help China grow. Back then, China was a dirt poor country, didn't have a lot going on, had a ton of people, but just didn't have a lot of industry. We let them into the World Trade Organization, and we kind of let them tilt everything in their favor. We did it on purpose. It's what they call nation building, okay? It's like we looked at them and said, okay, we're going to help you get on your feet. We were going to help you build up, become a strong nation, and then you're going to be our friend in the world. And that was the plan originally with China. We thought that if we helped them get on their feet, and we did our trade deals to favor them more than it favored us, that way they could really start to gain some wealth, because we wanted an ally, that country that size, over in Asia. Now we already had some allies over there, Japan, Korea, but to have China as an ally is huge, because it's one of the largest land masses in the world, and it's either first or second highest population in the world. It's always between them and India. It kind of flops back and forth. But anyways, so that was the plan, to help them along, and they could grow and become our friend and good trading partner and friend and ally around the world. Well, that blew up in our face because, yes, they did become a major power because of the way that trade was lopsided with us, but they've become an enemy. Now they're our number one enemy. Communism has only gotten stronger there, not weaker. And it kind of blew up in our face. Well, if you take away that imbalance in trade that we've tolerated for the last 30 years because of trying to build their nation up, if you take that trade imbalance away, they're going to collapse. Okay? Now, it's not going to go back to the way it was before in China, but they're not going to be able to continue. They call it the 100-year plan in China. It's their plan to basically take over the world economically. And they won't be able to continue on that. And they're pissed. And look, if you're them, I understand being pissed, right? Basically, the United States is turning off, they're turning off the faucet, man. They're not getting taken advantage of anymore. All this money that China has been bringing in to build all this crazy stuff they build, because I don't know if you ever watched the internet or TV, but China builds some of the craziest stuff you've ever seen. Some of these bridges and dams, they got stuff that's unimaginable over there. And you think about, wow, where do you get the money to build all that? Well, they get it from us. And that's basically, when this is all said and done, that's going to stop. And they're throwing a fit, man. They're pissed. But look, from our point of view, it's time, man. It has to stop. We built them up. That blew up in our face. They're no longer our friend. They're just a trading partner, but it's time for us to take a protectionist stance against them. In other words, view everything they do as adversarial, not as, oh, well, this is okay, but that's not, no, everything. And I go back to the land buying in the United States. We shouldn't allow it. Now think about this fact. Can an American go buy land in China? No, you can't. Actually, the way that it works in China is you can go buy a house in China, okay, but it's actually very strict on that as well. An American could go buy a house in China, but you don't own the land that the house is on. You only own the house. The land belongs to the state always, because that gives them final say and control of it, okay? You can buy the house, but it also can't be a rental house. It has to be your particular residence. And there's a whole bunch of other little, I read through them all. It's a bunch of little boring stuff. But that's the gist of it. So, and that's the same for all foreigners. You cannot go buy land in China. It belongs to the state. And see, I again, that part of the way China does things, I agree with it. It's basically saying it's ours. We own it no matter what. You can't manipulate it. You don't have control over it. You can live there as long as you follow the rules. But other than that, you don't own it. And that's the way they do it. We should do it the same way. I feel like one of the next things we need to do is figure out who owns all this land, whatever companies it is or whatever individuals. I think we need to figure out some way to either A, buy it back from them at fair market value, because, you don't, look, if we sold it to them, we got to buy it back. That's reality, okay? Buy it back at fair market value, or maybe if they're using it, maybe if it's a business entity that bought it and they're using it for something, maybe we buy it back and then lease it back to them. So we own it, but you can lease it from us and use it. You see that? Now I could get on board with that, but this whole, we've sold ourselves down the river, man. For the last 30 years, we've really just let it get out of hand. And again, I know why we did it in the past. I did a lot of research on that, the nation building ideas, and we still do that a lot for little countries nowadays. Little countries that we are allied with, that we want to help build up and make them strong. We give them unfair great deals so that they can gain a lot of wealth off of us, but at this point in our history, that needs to stop. And we need to get ourselves straightened out before we go worrying about helping all these other countries gain wealth. We need to gain our own wealth back. And look, we can do it, okay? And I think we're on the right track now, but we're going to need, so it's going to take some time. Donald Trump's going to have to keep pushing down the line and working on this stuff his whole 4 years. And then you're going to have to get J.D. Vance in there, because as soon as the Democrats get back in there, that's all over with, man. They're just going to, it's their crybaby attitude all the time. They're going to want to let everybody come back into the country, and they're all guests, and we have to be so inclusive and all that bull crap that's got us where we are right now, okay? Because we're almost broke. We're almost broke. We're trying to fix it, but we're close, okay? So we'll see what happens. I've been following that. I've been following the Chinese research a lot lately, because I like to look and see what's going on with the other side. We keep talking about how's it hurting our businesses, what's it doing to American businesses, and I understand all that. So because I see that every day on the news, but I research the stuff that's kind of hard to find, like what's going on in China, what's happening to the Chinese businesses, right? Well, they're in big trouble. They're basically almost in a depression right now. They're in a recession / depression. And they're teetering on the edge. A lot of their factories right now have closed this week. They've told all the workers, look, we're not producing right now until we figure out what's going to happen. A lot of their container ships, or ship containers, that are normally getting shipped over here all the time are sitting on the docks over there. The docks have basically shut down to a certain degree. I mean, they're under a lot of pressure, okay? They're feeling it a lot worse than we are. So we're going to really have to sit and wait this out and see which side blinks first. But the truth is, we need to coalesce behind our government right now and just wait this out so we can get the long-term benefits out of it, okay? Because if we just give in, because you give in because you go to Walmart and the prices went up a little bit, that's ridiculous, okay? This is for long-term benefits. We have to get it fixed, because I'll tell you right now, if we can pay this deficit down, get that paid off, or, maybe not paid off, but get it paid down, everything's going to get so much better, man. Inflation's going to be down. The taxes won't have to be so burdensome on everybody all the time. Because, look, a government that's going broke is like a wild animal that's trapped in a corner. It's going to go nuts. It's going to try to take all your money. It's going to raise all your taxes. It's going to do crazy things to survive itself, because the government is like it's an own separate entity. Okay, it's like a wild animal, and if we don't take that pressure off of the government, then it's going to go crazy with taxes, and we'll all be broke. And then in the end of all that, the whole government just goes broke, and then we've got real problems. So we'll see what happens. I'll keep on that China stuff, and I'll let you know what I see. Now, again, I've been wanting to do a podcast on China in Africa, because that one's crazy. I've been doing a lot of research on it. You talk about, and this is the thing, man. We are our own worst enemy over here. You got all these kooks running around in the street talking about we're colonizers, and Americans are colonizers and blah 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 blah. You have no idea, man. China is buying up Africa, and they're doing it in such a slick way. And I've been researching all of that. I'm gonna do a podcast coming up, in the next week on that one. But that one's interesting, and you're gonna get to see how they really do things. But anyways, guys, if you like my show, please like and subscribe. Like I said, if you subscribe, it's free. Hit the notification so every time I do a video, it'll pop up on your phone. Like-minded people, man, we got to spread the word. All right. You guys have a good night. This is Eddie from Studio 321. I'll talk to you soon.